Thank you. In the welcome to country, the acknowledgement we heard this evening that we are on Gadigal land, we are tapping down into the strength of the human family in the way that the longest continuous cultures on earth that still are here in this land have always known that family, community were the foundations of a great, lasting, resilient society. And the Aboriginal mob always say to me, people have been coming and going here longer than any of your books record. I say, the Mikasa? Long before that, crisscrossing the oceans. Do you think it was a one-way journey, they always say? Of course not. The boats were crossing the seas and people were walking in this land, and they were of many colours, of many creeds. They had different stories. Their cultures were as diverse even within this land as many modern nations are on other continents. And so the thought I want to leave you with tonight is, in this Aboriginal land, the open arms of Aboriginal people are inviting us all to learn what it is to be here, to be part of that unbroken story of the human family, of this intellectual knowledge system, of the learning that's been passed down through all the thousands of years that is behind this story. You see, I look around this room, I see beauty, strength, and certainly diversity. But the diversity that I believe in is the creativity of difference, the way of tackling problems with a different approach, the way of celebrating different things in life, the way of recognising in one another things we haven't heard before. I'm an old storyteller, but really the hardest lesson for me to learn was it's not really about us telling the story, it's learning that art of listening. And Aboriginal people today are still asking us, for all of us that have come to share in this ancient story and to understand what it is to be Australian here now, they are asking us to hear their voices. I don't believe that I have focused this country on what they are saying. I don't think today we are really hearing what those voices are saying in many of the communities that I work closely with. 3 examples that I want to leave you with, very short stories. Do you know that the pattern of the stolen generation, where up to 100,000 Aboriginal children were taken away from their families, that same pattern continues today? About 1/3 of children in Australia who are being removed from families are Aboriginal children. Are you aware that across the top end of Australia there is now a youth suicide contagion? Not a minor crisis. This is a crisis where children younger than 10 are taking their lives and are not even counted as suicides in the official statistics. 10 to 24-year-olds in that next age group, that is where there has been an absolutely terrifying increase in youth suicide in this country. If you go back even 20 years, you will see the official count will show youth suicide, for example, in the Northern Territory, was just 10% Indigenous. Today, it's 80% of those suicides are Indigenous people. If we take those 2 human stories of removal of children and the despair of young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, you can see somehow we have not included in our view of this great society so many of these children. They may be the children of the sunrise, the first sunrise, but we aren't hearing them. In many cases, we aren't counting them, and we are not hearing what their fathers and mothers are trying to say to us. The final thought I want you to think about, on a night where we have celebrated with every speaker that has stood here tonight, led by our Chief Justice, he asked us to see Indigenous societies, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, not with tolerance or even with this vagueness of reconciliation. His plea, as I heard it, was to see the value of these people in our midst, this ancient heart that helps us understand that we are part of a human family. And if we can hear that and start to value Aboriginal people, we will realise that we have turned away from our own laws, in that the ones who we are trying to change in the harshest possible fashion, the ones who we still discriminate against in the most shameful way, are indeed these first Australians. We can go to the United Nations judgment about the behaviour of our governments, but in a direct sense, I ask you, in your family, to have a discussion. Why is it only Aboriginal people that have been removed from the protection of the Racial Discrimination Act? The 3 times that we've ever allowed our citizens to be removed from that protection, it has always been Aboriginal people. Now, I don't believe you, in your heart and mind, give any endorsement to racism or discrimination. This room is filled with people who passionately contribute to the idea of this diverse society built on multiple voices, multiple ways of seeing, and ways that will make this into a truly great society. But I ask you tonight, as a storyteller, merely trying to carry to you truthfully what I hear from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, hear their pain, hear their cry for help for their children, acknowledge that we have not dealt these people the fair go that we pride ourselves in, and that our law is being used harshly against these people. The opportunity for constitutional change that is now ahead of us, use your own voice to see that we take the stain of racism, of that white supremacy, of that white Australia that is all over that document. Let's get the discrimination power out of the Constitution and instead have a celebration of our diversity, of our equality across all areas of the human family. That is what I hear from Aboriginal people, and as a storyteller, I am responsible to say to you, that is our unfinished business. Thank you.